Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of wargame review institutions. This is Paratroop, which includes 3 games, Even Mall, Crete, and Red Devils. In this video, I'm going to play 2 turns of Crete after explaining the rules, and then Len and I will give our review. In Crete, you have 3 separate maps here. You have this one here, and another one up there, and each of them has transit hexes, so you can move from map to map. What's going on here for setup is initially the Germans have 13 paratroop units, and they're going to choose how many are going to land on each map. So in the first turn they have to land at least 7, but I'm going to land all 13. So it's, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 are going to land here, and 6 are going to land here. After that, the British will set up. British have already set up. I've done that just to save time. But the goal of this is the Germans also, let me show you these other units here. They have mountain units down here, and the mountain units have to land on airfields, but the Germans don't control any airfields, so they're going to use their paratroopers to take control of an airfield. Actually, they just have to get it in their zone of control without a enemy unit in it, and then they can start landing their mountain troops. Victory points in this game, you get victory points for destroying enemy units, and you also get victory points for taking airfields or for taking the town of Suda over here. There's an airfield here, another one here, and another one here. 2 other things I got to point out. There are 2 combat results tables. There's an all-out attack combat results table up here, and there's also a limited attack combat results table. Obviously, on the all-out attack one, you're more likely to kill an enemy unit, but you're also more likely to lose one of your own, whereas the limited attack, you're less likely to lose one of your own, but also less likely to defeat an enemy unit. The reason you might want to use the limited attack table is because one of the combat results in this is counterattack, and when you get counterattack, you can either retreat 1 space or attack one of the stacks that attacked you. So if you just have 1 unit, and or say like a combat strength of 4, and you have to counterattack a stack of 12, you'd rather use the limited attack table because you're less likely to lose your unit. And then one other thing I got to point out here, there's a bunch of air power here. The Germans can use air power during attacks, but not during defense. For each attack, they can use up to 3 aircraft. Here's the sequence of play. It starts with the German player turn, where they have an air landing phase, where they either try to paratroop in and use a scatter table, or if they've already taken an airfield, they can start landing mountain troops. Mountain troops can land up to the stacking limit of 3. So if there's 1 German unit already on the airfield, they can only land 2 that turn, but if it's empty, they can land up to 3. And then step 2 is German movement, and then German combat, and then you have the Commonwealth turn. You have Commonwealth movement and Commonwealth combat, and there's 10 turns in the game. We're just going to do 2 turns to show you guys how the game plays. But the German reinforcement phase, when the paratroopers come in, they may not attack on the turn they came in. Also, when a German paratroop unit lands, it can't move either in addition to attacking. However, when mountain troops come in, they can move and attack because they're just landing in airplanes. So let's get started here. These German units are going to try to land here. They can scatter, and scatter will be into an adjacent space. So I'm moving them kind of far away so they don't scatter onto the Commonwealth troops, which could cause the Commonwealth troops to attack them. And you also don't want them to scatter into the water, which will cause them to be immediately killed, or if they scatter off the map too. So that looks like a pretty safe place to land. So we'll roll there. 2 on the scatter table. So that one's scattered. So we're going to use this table here to see what direction they land. You got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it gets 1. So he will land here. Next one's going to attempt to land there. He gets a 5, so he's accurate, so he lands there. This one's going to attempt to land there. Gets a 4, which is accurate, so he lands there. That one will attempt to land there. He gets a 2, so that's a scatter. And 3 goes in this direction. Alright, this since stacking limit hasn't been reached there, he'll try to land there. He gets a 3, which is a scatter. And direction 1. So he lands here. And last one here. Gets a 2, which is a scatter, and then he rolls again and gets a 4. Goes there. Alright, and these ones are obligated to land over there. He's going to try and land there. Gets a 5, which is accurate, so he lands. Next one will try to land there. Gets a 5, so he lands there. This one will try to land there. 5, accurate. So he doesn't want to go over his stacking limit, so he's going to try to land some here. So he'll try to land there. Accurate. Next one. Accurate. Let's go for this one. Accurate. Alright, and he's got one left. So that one will just try to land here. Gets a 6, which is accurate. So that was a good paratroop drop. There is no German movement or combat this turn because they just landed. So now I'll go to the Commonwealth turn so they can start with their movement phase. He can move out and attack here, or he can try to defend the airfield. Let's see the terrain effects chart. That's rough terrain, so the defender will be doubled. So he's not going to go out there and attack them. And same here, they're not going to attack either. Down here, they see what's going on. So they're going to try and move forward here. Alright. Road hexes move at a rate of 1/3. So all of these have a movement of rate of 4. So 1, 2, 3, that counts as 1. 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, and that's their movement. And this one's going to follow right behind. And down here, they're going to move 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so that's 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, so there's 4. Alright. And this is just going to line up here. They know they're not doing anything down here. So they're going to come to the defense up there. Alright, so then turn 1 is done. So now we're on game turn 2. There's no German reinforcements this turn since all the paratroopers are on the board, and there's no airfield for mountain troops to land yet. So these guys are going to move. These paratroopers will form a stack here and move into there. 1, 2, alright. They can only move there because rough terrain costs 2 to move on. And then let's go up here. Alright, the Germans are going to do an attack here, and they're going to use some air power. So it's they have 20 points here and 8 points of air power, so it's going to be 28 to 12, so that's a 2 to 1 on the all-out attack combat results table. And they get a 2 counterattack, so it'll be 12 to 20 because the airplanes aren't used in defense for the Germans, so it'll be a 1 to 2 on the limited table. 1 to 2 on the limited table is no effect, so nothing happened there. Alright, now for the other attack on the board. And pick out some aircraft. So we got 6 points of aircraft here, and we got an 8 there, 14, 22, 28 to 2, 3, 4, 28 to 4. Oh, there's going to be a big attack here. So that's going to, obviously going to be on the all-out table. 28 to 4, so that's a 7 to 1. And they roll a 6. You got to be kidding me. That's a that's the only roll they could have got where they survived. So it's counterattack. So they can either counterattack or retreat, but they can't retreat into an adjacent space. So they're going to counterattack, but just they only have to attack one stand. So they're going to attack this one here. So it'll be a 1 to 2. On the limited table. They roll a 5, no effect. So nothing happened on the combat there. So now it's the British turn. So the British are going to do their movement first. Alright. 1, that counts as 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just going to filter in behind them. Alright, let's see if the Commonwealth's going to do anything up here. No, they're going to stay in defensive mode because if they move out, they're going to get isolated. So combat is voluntary, so they're not going to attack. It's just going to go to turn 3. The time is against the Germans, so if the Commonwealth can delay them, it's to their advantage. So now the Germans will go. They can't do any reinforcements yet. So I was going to do just 2 turns, but we haven't seen the result of a combat yet, so we'll do another turn. I mean, other than a no effect or a counterattack where nothing happened. Alright. So he's going to move there, and he's going to move there. 2, 4, 5. All right. All right, he's going to add 8 air power here when he attacks. 8, 14, 20, 28, 36, 42, 48. 48 to 12. So that's a 4 to 1. I'm obviously going to do the all-out attack there. See what happens. He rolls a 2, 4 to 1, so defender eliminated. So that worked out well. Alright, so Germans get 10, 12 victory points there. And this one will move in. And we'll move up here. And let's add some aircraft. Add 6 points. 6, 12, 6, 8, so that's 14, 20. 28, 34, 40, 46 to 46 to 4, so that's maximum odds. So if they roll anything but a 6, the defender's eliminated, but let's see what they roll. rolls a 3, so defender eliminated. So he's going to move into there. And the Germans get 4 more points. So anyhow, you get the idea of how combat works. So let's just say that they wiped out all these here, and now, as you can see, the airfield's open. That means that on the German turn, during the reinforcement phase, 1, 2, 3 mountain troops will land. So that's basically how the reinforcement phase works. And remember, the mountain troops, when they land, they can move and attack in the same turn. So that's basically how the game goes. You have 10 turns to take as many airfields as you can and try to take this Suda city here, which is worth 10 victory points, and destroy as many Commonwealth units as you can. So you get enough victory points to win the game. So if you have a victory point superiority of 1 to 20, it's a marginal victory. If it's 0, it's a draw, and obviously if it's negative, you lose. 21 to 40, a substantial victory, and 41 or more, a decisive victory. I'll go to Len and I's review of the game now. Hey guys, Dave and Len here. We just got finished playing Paratroop, the Crete game inside of it. Len, what'd you think of it?
Actually, I like this version of it. So to say, if you can only afford or get one game of the Battle of Crete, which was the most important airborne assault, this is the one to get, because it captures the nature of the battle without too much complexity. So the game runs smoothly. It took us about an hour to play it.
Yeah.
And that's what's setting up.
Yep. Yeah, one thing about it is the German player has to be very careful where they land, because there's a scatter table, so you can scatter into the water, or you can scatter onto an enemy troop, which means it instantly counterattacks you, which is probably going to be an unfavorable odds for you, so you'll lose your units. So you got to be careful where you land as the Germans. And the combat results table, there's actually 2 of them. There's an all-out attack table, and the other one was called a limited attack table. Obviously, the all-out attack table is more bloody, but you're also more likely to lose your units in the process. So a lot of times when you're forced to counterattack, you'll use the limited table because you're less likely to lose your unit. Because when you counterattack, let's say you're being attacked by 2 hexes, you're only allowed to counterattack one of those hexes, so it's probably going to be an unfavorable odds. Another thing about the counterattacks is if you don't want to do the counterattack, you can retreat instead. We actually didn't do any retreating, we just fought it out, but that's an option you have.
Well, I had no plans of retreating.
Yep.
Yeah, I was on the total offense. But the thing is that there's a couple strategic hexes where you don't think about retreating. So you end up fighting it out.
Yeah, that's true. And at the beginning of the game, the German player writes down on a piece of paper where they're going to land their airborne forces, which is very important because they also have mountain troops, and the mountain troops cannot enter the battlefield until the Germans have taken an airfield. So you're playing a guessing game with your opponent by writing down where you're going to land. So then after you write down where you're going to land, the Commonwealth troops set up, and they don't know where you're going to land. So that's kind of cool. The only bad part of that is if you're playing solo, you're playing both sides, so you know where you're going to land. So you kind of miss out on that aspect when playing solo. But other than that, once the game starts, it actually plays solo pretty good.
Well, one thing I learned is that you should have a few units come in turn 2, because you started marching all your troops in this sector off because you knew nobody was going to land by parachute.
True, yeah.
And I thought that's when I totally screwed up the game by doing that. One problem from the Germans looking at it is that he has fewer units, but they're have better combat strength. The Commonwealth has a lot of units, and the thing is that they're all over the place. So the first couple turns, you have to fight it out with a lot of people.
Yep, true.
So and that can get very scary, and you take more losses than you really want, because the Germans can't take too many losses, and too many exchanges, and you're a spent force.
Yeah, very true.
So.
What'd you think of the complexity level? I mean, it's a simple game. I think it's suitable for probably like beginners. Regular players will probably like it. They might find it a little bit too simple, but there's nothing to say you can't add some rules to make it more
Well, I was
detailed.
thinking with the big thing is the 2 combat tables.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me doesn't like that because part of me just likes 1 combat table. But on the other hand, it does add a little strategy because you notice that especially at the beginning, I did a lot of limited attacks because all I wanted was maybe just to pin you or just to scare you, and but it wasn't until I started building up strength that I started doing all-out attacks. You were doing all-out attacks all the time.
Yeah. The British, since they're weaker, the individual units are generally weaker. You're going to do most of your killing through equal eliminations, which is interesting. So you want to get yourself in situations where there's a more likely chance you're going to have an equal elimination. That seems to be the best way to kill the Germans, actually, because you rarely get defender eliminated rolls because you don't get the odds, which will get you on a column, which will give you a defender eliminated. So equal elimination is the way the Commonwealth's going to kill the Germans. As far as the games we played, when I played it solo, the Germans won, but just barely. I made some mistakes. I was still learning the game, so I made some bad mistakes with the Germans in the beginning, but they still managed to win. It wasn't a decisive victory, but when Len and I played, he played the Germans. He managed to get a decisive victory. He beat me like 148 to like, I think 80-something, so he had a really good victory.
I forgot the last mountain unit still sitting at the airport.
Yeah, it is.
What am I supposed to do? I have no orders. But the thing is, you notice that you drove me out of this sector, you were driving me out of that sector.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you have smaller units, there's more of them, and you can do stuff like outflank me.
True.
And that gets very scary.
Yeah.
And since I'm on the attack, you know, I also you get to grab the rough terrain where you can double your defense.
True, but the thing is, I have to guard the airports, and the airports aren't on rough terrain, so I'm like on unfavorable defensive ground. However, that city, I got to hold the city. You get to double your defense on that. So, but
by the time I got close to there, I wore down most of your units. So I got that in one turn, one all-out attack.
Yeah.
So, also the air power does help.
Yeah, it does.
And of course, I forgot to do it the second turn.
Well, you still got a decisive victory though, so it worked out.
I mean, like one thing I learned is if I play it again, keep a couple units to come in on later turns, because that will pin down. And these 2 sectors.
That's true, because it keep the opponent guessing. Because let's say you got 3 units that haven't landed yet. They don't know where they're going to attack. Whereas if you land all 13 on the first turn, well, then they know you've shot your wad, and they know where you're. They know that you're not going to have any more paratrooping reinforcements coming in. So
yeah, the mountain troops won't be coming in. Yeah, so that's an important lesson. It's hard for the Commonwealth to defend because the most important strategic locations are the airfields, and they're in clear terrain. Even though here you could probably block it off by having a few units in the rough terrain.
Yeah, true.
And that one has I forgot that's the famous mountain that was overlooking the field that the paratroopers had a hard time pushing the Anzac guys off.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and they had like artillery that could shoot on the airfield, because when the first mountain troops landed, they had to dodge the artillery shells exploding around them.
Interesting.
Because I think they landed and everybody got off, and even the crew fled the transports because they knew they couldn't take off. So.
Anyhow, so the game, how would you rate it? I would rate it as pretty good. What would you say?
Very good.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. And the next time we'll be testing out Red Devils from Paratroop 2. That's one of the other games in it. Have a good evening.